into For FF's Sake. I am Evan Harris, and this guy right here, really excited to introduce him to you guys. He goes by Ryan RFF on Twitter, and he's an article writer for Dynasty Nerds and Fantasy. I'm drawing a blank now. Help me out.
Dynasty Pros.
Dynasty Pros. So Dynasty Nerds and Dynasty Pros. Do you ever get them mixed up when you're like writing a header on an article?
Sometimes, because the title is so, or if I'm like going to tag them on Twitter, all I type in is Dynasty and a few pop up and I'm like, oh wait, it's not this one, it's this one.
Well, man, introduce yourself to everybody. I am legitimately super excited to have you on the pod today. We're going to talk a little bit about quarterbacks. We'll get more into that in a minute, but tell everybody what you do in the fantasy community and a little bit more about yourself.
So I've been writing for a few months now, playing fantasy for a few years now. Big New York Giants fan, but not a whole lot to write about them. So I've been writing with Dynasty Nerds and Dynasty Pros, plug for them, for a little while. And I try to do as much as an article a week, trying to put out as much content as I can. And I keep doing a lot of content like stats and advice and stuff like that on Twitter. Like Evan mentioned, my Twitter is RyanR_FF. And you can always check me out there, ready to talk some fantasy football. And I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. So you got to tell me, I am fascinated by the analytical side of this. How did you, one, get involved with the numbers that deep? And what really kind of drove you that into that lane in the fantasy community?
So I always thought being an analyst was like so cool back when I first started playing fantasy football.
Yeah.
And something hit me this year where I was like, let me see how far into it I can get. Let me try doing it. I looked at a few different data sites at first. I ended up choosing Fantasy Data. I think they're a great site for getting some analytics and getting all the stats and being able to formulate the stats in a way that's easy for the reader as well. Because you can't always hit them with like super like crazy numbers and things like that. So I kind of try to be as analytical as I can without making it overly complicated for the reader. So I try to keep that balance of articles / analysis. When I started writing, that's when I got more into the whole metrics like separation and targets and target share and things like that. Stuff like that. When you're just a casual fantasy football player, you don't look at things like that as much. So I think getting into the analytics and looking at the data really helps. You also makes it easier for finding better talent, especially in the later rounds. It makes it a lot easier for scoping them out and finding the best talent available and things like that, where when you're casual, it's not always that type of situation. And you don't look at the more deeper stats. You kind of just look at face value in a way.
So every time I talk to a stats guy or a data guy, he's got one data point that's like his favorite of the moment, right? That's like what he's looking at as he's going into redraft and dynasty. I'm not a data guy, but my favorite is the dominator rating, just because there's never been a cooler name for a stat ever. But is there a certain data point or analytical view right now that you are either digging more into or something that you're using more often than not as you're going into these startup drafts and redrafts?
The biggest one I'd say would be target share, especially when it comes to something like PPR leagues. Because not only with the receivers, but PPR leagues is where you really have to look at running backs that catch the ball and the running backs target share and things like that. Like someone like Derrick Henry or Nick Chubb would not be nearly as valuable in a PPR league as they are in standard.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Eckler or Najee Harris would their value would shoot up even more in a PPR league. Eckler helped lead me to a championship last year, and I have him to thank for that. Yeah. Man, going into last year, he was my dark horse for RB1, and he ended up finishing RB2. So really good, close one there. Jonathan Taylor was just a touchdown machine, though.
So I'm going to need some of your private stats after the shows, all right? So I can beat all my league mates. We'll get that going. You put a lot of stats in articles. Before we get into one of your main articles that I actually kind of want to segue into our quarterback discussion, I want to talk about how we kind of connected, obviously, over Twitter, and then the Fantasy Football Creator League. We're both in the same division. If you haven't been following us on Twitter, go to For FF's Sake on Twitter, Ryan R_FF on Twitter. You can also check out FF Creator Club on Twitter, and it's a whole account just dedicated to the league. But basically what it is, it's an opportunity for a lot of different creators, whether it's article writers, content creators, personalities, to get into a league together. We're doing a dynasty startup the first year, which I don't know if it's affected you as much. It's definitely affected my drafting. The first year is interesting. Even though we're playing dynasty, the top 6 teams from the 12-team league, because there's 2 different divisions, I think 3 now, are going to go into a totally new league next year and start all over as like the top dogs, if you will. So I almost thought, well, man, I could get so much great dynasty value and stay in one league and just dominate that league for a few years. But if we're playing to win. So I'm definitely trying to build a contender this year. But check it out on Twitter. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a podcast on it. I'm sure there's going to be some stuff. There already is so much on Twitter about it. But tell me a little bit about how you got into the Creator League and kind of what you're thinking so far. We're in the early stages, but I feel like this is something that could be really big.
I agree. I think this could actually be like a really big league. I love the idea. Adam Kale on Twitter, he was the one that came up with the idea, and he created the account and started trying to advertise it. And that's kind of how I found it. I was already following Adam at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
It's great. We're looking at expanding too next year. I think he said he wants to get an extra division, so we'll have 4 total, I think. My draft didn't go as initially planned. Like Evan said, you might want to have a redraft mindset because you can instantly get into the league next year. But the way the draft fell to me, I think my mistake was when I took CeeDee Lamb in the 2nd round. So I went 2 back-to-back receiver in the 1st and 2nd. And by the time it got to me at 3rd, almost every quarterback you could think of was already off the board. I was like, oh man, I didn't want to take Justin Fields in the 3rd, but I had to. I could not count on him coming back to me, especially with Adam had the 12th spot. So he had that back-to-back.
Yeah.
It worked out in the end. I managed to snag Kirk Cousins, which seemed to snipe a lot of people. Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah, so I think I have a team that could possibly be the contender this year, but even if it's not, I think next year it'll really shine between like Chase and CeeDee Lamb and Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore, J.K. Dobbins, those kind of guys.
Listeners of the pod know I am a trade addict. Like, hi, my name is Evan, and I have a trading problem. You and I didn't realize this until we recorded, had the first trade of the league.
Yeah.
When we traded, you traded up, got Jamar Chase. I traded back, took Cooper Kupp. And for a first-round trade, it was only like 3 spots to move. I feel like you got a pretty good deal on that. I think we only like swapped a 12th for a 13th round or something silly like that. So
yeah, and I think I moved 2 spots. You had the 109, right?
Yeah, 109.
Yeah, and I had the 111. Yeah.
So to grab Chase there, I keep looking back at that, going, man, I really hope they don't bite me in the tail. But got Cooper Kupp. So you got right now. We'll just run through your roster real quick. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but Justin Fields at quarterback, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon at running back. Our running back situations are kind of similar. Top dog at RB1, interesting at RB2. Could something positive could happen. 2 receivers, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and then your flexes. You sniped me so hard on one of your flexes. I'm a Rashad Bateman. I think I got a man crush on the guy. Okay, I love the prospect profile coming out. I'm a former high school football coach, so I'm a tape junkie. Love.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite parts of my Dynasty Nerds membership is the prospect film room. I wear it out.
Yeah.
So Rashad Bateman, really excited for him this season. Cool to see that talent win out of the situation, and excited to see what he does. You also got Elijah Moore, which is an interesting pick just because the fantasy community is almost split on him this year. I think I'm on the upper side of that, and obviously you are too. And then grabbing Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is like off-brand, right? He's like the he's just as good as the original, but it comes at a discount. Kirk Cousins is perennially a back end or a quarterback one in a super flex. I think that's such a good steal. You got him in the 6th round.
Yeah, I really like Kirk Cousins, especially for fantasy. He was actually the league that I won last year that I mentioned with Eckler. It was a 1 QB league, and Kirk Cousins was my QB1 for the entire year. Like in a 1 QB league, I don't reach for a top QB. I'm totally good going for value. I got him in like the 10th round. That was like the craziest value of my draft that year, I think.
Yeah. This draft is so weird. So I don't know if it's the same for you. I have and I'll go through my team, but a lot of these guys I have on my team is like the only share I have of them in any league. I don't know if it's how the draft fell to me or just the mindset of going redraft versus dynasty.
Yeah.
But I'll go through position again, not by round. I got Jalen Hurts at quarterback. That is my only quarterback. So as we talked about quarterbacks and sleepers, I'm going to be listening, even though we picked very closely. You already got 2, okay? So I'm going to need some help. I got Derrick Henry at running back. And good news, Derrick Henry normally scores enough for 2 running backs, and I hope he does because my RB2 now is a CEH. So I need Henry to stay healthy. I had an interesting take on him on Twitter about his pass catching opportunities this year. Most people don't view him as a pass catcher, but 351 targets to reallocate on that team. And he was on pace last year to double his career high in receptions.
Yeah, they did start to use him a lot more in the passing game last year. I think that'll really help, especially with Robert Woods is coming off the ACL tear, but I see he's already like at practice.
Oh, yeah. 2 days in a row with a knee brace. I'm like, dude, get off the field and get ready for week 1. Like, stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
We're going to need you. Big Titans fan, obviously. So then I got Cooper Kupp, obviously Devontae Adams, Dalton Schultz, and I think I have a really strong flex group with Tyreek Hill and Darnell Mooney. Was really excited to get Mooney in the 7th round, end of the 7th round, 7-9.
Mooney will always be underdrafted. I don't know why. Like I'm surprised he fell to the 7th. I thought 6th round someone would have snagged him or went for him. But
you talked about target share. He's got to be a guy that's like up on your rankings there.
Oh, for sure. Next year, considering the only people they brought in was Pringle and they drafted like Vilas Jones, which was a bit of a head scratcher. So I think him and the tight end, Cole Kmet, I think they're both in for a huge amount of targets next year. Like Mooney could push like 140 maybe.
I took Dalton Schultz at pick 804, and I was really – my whole game plan was to fade and just grab Kmet later. But because you can't rely on ADP at all in this league. Like there's guys going 2
ADP is not real in this draft.
2 or 3 rounds later. So I was like, let me just grab a guy that's a value right now. Coop's not there. Hope he can run it back. And a lot of people were saying he's a one-year wonder, but if you look at the end of the 2021 season, he was already starting this trend. So I'm really hopeful for that. And he's just 25 years old. So if he hits again this year, he's set up to be a tight end 1, I think, for the next few seasons.
Oh, I think Schultz is going to be great. He's who I wanted. We mentioned off air. He's who I wanted at that pick with AJ Dillon. But like the running backs after AJ Dillon on the draft order, it looked really bleak. So I had to take it. I couldn't pass up Dillon there.
We're still in the 8th round of this draft. And just to kind of further cement what you said, there has not been a running back taken since AJ Dillon. And the only running backs left are James Cook, who I am way out on. I'm not going to get on that tangent. But I'm just not high on James Cook personally. Damian Harris, who the Patriots don't have an OC right now, I don't think. Maybe, kind of. I'm going to trigger some Patriots fans.
Oh, I just stay away from Patriots.
Bill Belichick running backs. You don't BBRBs. You don't need those. Miles Sanders, Tony Pollard, Damian Pierce. It's just kind of a no man's land right now at running back. Yeah. All right, so
I think Dillon could have some standalone value. He kind of did last year. He was a good flex play, and I think he'll get better this year, especially with – I think they're going to have to use Aaron Jones more as a receiver.
Yeah.
And A.J. Dillon's going to be the 3-down back. So I think he could be a viable RB2 for – I think he's only 25 as well, so he's got a little bit of time as well.
One of the original co-hosts of this podcast, Ian Steele, I was texting him about the league. And he's like, you need to just grab Dillon. He was telling me to grab A.J. Dillon back when I grabbed Mooney, which he's also big on Mooney. He's like, you got 2 picks here. Grab Mooney and A.J. Dillon. And I didn't listen. So hopefully they don't come back to bite me in the butt. But we can look back at this if it does, and I'll finally tell Ian for the first time in his life he was right.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on. Let's segue a little bit. One of your recent articles that I saw and read, really enjoyed, was an article about Derek Carr, the weapons that was added this season for him. He was actually drafted, when we look at the Creator League, pretty early compared to his ADP. I'm trying to go back and find where he's at. He was at 302.
I know it was third. Yeah.
302,
early third.
Which there was.
That's the highest I've ever seen him be drafted, to be honest.
They probably read your article. That's probably what it was.
Maybe, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that article, and then we'll just start with Derek Carr. We're going to talk quarterbacks. If you're in a Superflex league, this is the episode for you. We're going to talk about sleepers, guys that could see a drop in their value, and guys that are just always stagnant like Kirk Cousins and are going to provide value even no matter where they're drafted. So tell us about Carr and that article a little bit.
So I recently published it on Dynasty Nerds. Always been a big Derek Carr fan, like one of the defenders, because Derek Carr is one of those guys where every year, even the Raiders as a whole, it's like, are they good? Is he good? Are they just okay? Like, no one knows. And the fact that he threw for the fifth most yards last year, with Waller out half the time. They lost Ruggs due to the arrest after all of that. They lost their head coach halfway through as well. After all the things that Derek Carr went through and still managed to finish as QB 13 overall. He just missed the mark as being a low-end QB1 there. And then they went and got Davante Adams, who is arguably best receiver in the league. Definitely top 3 at the least. I think a lot of people, maybe they didn't realize at first, but they played together 2 years at college. And Adams was a touchdown machine with Carr. And I think they're going to get right back to work. I think as a whole, it'll even open up, Adams' presence will open up Waller and Renfro even more. That whole offense is getting a boost with Adams coming to the team.
I agree.
And Carr should have a really good chance of finishing as a low-end QB1. He just missed the mark by 1 spot last year without Davante Adams. I think the new coach coming from the Patriots offense is going to work great with Carr. When he had Tom Brady, they were all top 10 year after year in passing attempts. And I think I'm not saying Carr is Tom Brady level, but they both like to throw a ton. And I think they're going to try and mimic that offense and throw a ton, especially when they have Davante Adams and Waller and Renfro out there.
Yeah, when you look at him, he tried to make Tim Tebow work at quarterback. So I'm sure he's pretty happy to have Derek Carr calling the shots there. A little bit more on Carr in that league. Not only was he drafted at 302, guy traded 405 and 508 for 302 and 611. So he took a pretty significant step up to get him too. I think a lot of people are high on Carr, understandably so. Renfro broke out last year. His value's a little all over the place right now. Davante Adams, I think, kind of as you mentioned, not enough people talk about that chemistry they already have, right? Yeah. Darren Waller was banged up a lot last year. He comes back. And then you got some ancillary pieces, stuff mixed in there that now you know that these guys are going to be a part of your offense, where last year you were trying to throw them out there and just hope something would stick. So really excited for Derek Carr this year. I'm right there with you. I think he will finish as a QB1. One other thing I don't think enough people are looking at with him is that division. There's going to be some shootouts, man. I mean,
I'm so excited. Every primetime game should just be a division matchup between one of those 4.
I mean, it's going to be bonkers. I mean, it's literally going to be, you look at that Chiefs-Bills game from last year. I don't know if it's going to be that magnitude, but I think you're going to see it. I mean, we kind of got a piece of it in that playoff game against the Chargers. Or was it a playoff?
Yeah, they were fighting for the last playoff spot where they could have both just kneeled, but
I think the Raiders were going to kneel. And
I thought so too. I remember, I think it was Eckler. They showed a video of him talking. I don't know if it was to Carr or someone else after, and they said, yeah, we were going to. But then I think it was, I don't know if it was the timeout the Chargers took that changed their mind.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I think there are going to be a ton of shootouts like that. This might be a little off topic, but out of the four, who do you think is coming out on top? I think Chargers.
Man, it's almost throw a dart, right? I think the Vegas odds have been all over the place too. Chargers are hard to bet against. My only knock on the Chargers is you got an aging Keenan Allen, and you have a Mike Williams, who was excellent last year, has all the talent in the world, but stays banged up. I could see them falling to injury and Herbert just trying to make it work. The defense is much improved. I think Spiller, where they grabbed him, was an interesting value for them in the draft. I wasn't high on Spiller, but I could see him giving them some valuable carries. I don't know if it's the Chargers for me. The Raiders look the most ready in that division, in my opinion. They're battle-tested, have a really smart coach coming in, and you look at what they added on defense, Chandler Jones and Max Crosby are going to break some people's hearts next year.
Yeah. I think the Broncos are also one to look out for as well. I feel like a lot of them aren't calling the Broncos number one yet because we haven't seen Russell play with them yet. Whereas like we know what to expect from Herbert. We know Carr led the Raiders to the playoffs last year and just got Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Feels like we're not talking about the Chiefs at all, but
so I think
can't count them out either. But I think the Hill loss is big.
I think the Chiefs are a wild card. So it's not just that. They have 360 plus targets to replace. That's 360 targets that are either going to go to an aging Kelsey. You got Juju, you got Sky Moore. I don't understand everybody excited about MVS, but maybe that's a thing. Mercaro Hardman, you have a lot of chemistry that has to get set up. That offensive line last year did get rebuilt, but I think they lost some pieces on defense. They've drafted well in the past, especially those middle rounds. I think they're a team that's going to gel towards the middle of the season and be fighting for a wild card, but nobody's going to want to see them in the playoffs. That's what I think. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think that Hill loss was a lot bigger than people realize, I think.
I think, and here we go, off topic. I can't help it. Kelsey is going to see the biggest impact of that because now teams can really double Kelsey. And it's not just the fact of doubling it. It's bracketing them with a zone that used to not be there because that guy had to go deep zone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I think and Kelsey, he's what, 33 now or 32? Like he's getting up there now. I don't want to take anything away from Kelsey. He still finished as tight end 2 last year. He was still dominating like always.
32.
But I think if there is an age cliff that hits Kelsey, it might be this year. It sucks, but I think once again Mark Andrews is tight end 1, I think for sure.
Oh, calling a shot right here. Okay.
I think so.
Let's move on to quarterback. So the name of the show is For FF's Sake, for fantasy football's sake. We like to give an opinion on something. So here's what I need. I need to know who is your quarterback that you are just out on this year, that you are avoiding at all cost, no matter what, because of the situation around him.
Completely out on. So there's a few, but they might be worth it because of the cost. Like guys like Carson Wentz and Jared Goff and stuff like that.
Okay. Is there a guy towards the top of the ADP that you just don't like it as ADP?
Let me think here.
I
think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a tough time.
Okay. So
I think he's still going really high in draft. Like in our drafts, I think he went second round. I don't think he either went second round or he went like 301 right before
301.
Carr.
You're right, 301.
I think at his cost, he might underperform. I know he's Aaron Rodgers and no one wants to, but that just like Mahomes losing Hill, he just lost Devontae Adams. He just lost someone who's been his top target for like 8 years or something like that. It's like, so I think that's going to be really tough. All they did was bring in a rookie. I think he's going to be great, but Aaron Rodgers has a record of not really supporting rookies their first year.
Oh, I'm all over that. I loved Christian Watson and hated the landing spot, and it's like opposite of everybody else. So here's what we're going to do, though. We'll use 2 of them, 2 of the guys you named, Jared Goff and Aaron Rodgers. For fantasy football's sake, explain to me why I should be in on these guys this year. I know you hate them.
Why should be in?
Yeah, but that's the name of the game. For fantasy football's sake, here's why I would draft them if they fell to me at the certain location. So what are the things that could happen to make it go good for them?
Well, I'll start with Jared Goff.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of Jared Goff.
You told me this.
Yeah, I told you off air. I never thought he was good when he was on the Rams. I think that's why I didn't like him, because everyone else kept telling me how good he is. Yeah, they went to the Super Bowl, and I was like, guys, like, he's not good. I think they believe me now that they got Stafford and won instantly, that they see like Jared Goff was really holding them back.
Yeah.
What can work out for them is he's surrounded by a lot of weapons. Like you have
for sure.
Monra St. Brown, you have TJ Hawkinson, you have DeAndre Swift, who's like a PPR cheat code if he stays healthy. Jameson Williams, some people say, had like top 3 upside out of the receivers drafted this year. He'll be slow getting into the game because of his injury, but like we said before, sometimes ACLs, like Robert Woods is already at practice and stuff like that. So ACLs, back in the day, ACL used to be like a career-ending thing, but now it's just like a minor setback for a year. So, Jared Goff, if he has any he's on the hot seat, so he's going to try his best to not get kicked off the team or to prevent them from drafting a quarterback next year. Drafting a quarterback next year for Detroit might be inevitable, no matter how good Goff is this year. But he would have super flex value. The good thing about him, his cost is probably very, very low as well. So there is, depending on the matchup, I could see myself starting him as my super flex. Wouldn't like it, but it could work out. He does have a lot of weapons, so I wouldn't take that away.
I'm trying to look at it real quick. It was through like 6 weeks last year, he was a QB1 because they were behind in games. He's passing the ball a ton. And in those scenarios, he still had Hawkinson healthy. He still had Swift healthy. So I think it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that he could finish as a high-end QB2 if everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
Do you want to draft that guy in the 5th round? No. But if you can snag him in the 10th or 12th round of your Superflex league, I'm right there with you. I think he has value. The fact that he's a little higher on my board only because they didn't draft a rookie quarterback. They didn't even take a chance on a guy in the 6th round. So you're starting Jared Goff or Tim Boyle. I mean, they're going to try to give Jared Goff every opportunity to start. He's been to a Super Bowl. He wasn't great those years either, had a great running game. But, I mean, he finished his quarterback 24 last year. I think that number will go up. I think he'll stay healthy. Again, I'm not beating down the door for Jared Goff because the 23 class is just so talented. But I could see him putting up numbers early on in the year. Okay, so I'll give you my quarterback that I have been fading at ADP, and I almost hate to say this. Well, and I'm not going to use the low-hanging fruit, Deshaun Watson, because that's an obvious one for obvious reasons. Yeah. But mine right now is Tua Tagovailoa. Tua, that guy. I can't. I'm Tua Alphabet. I feel terrible. I'm mispronouncing. And that's just because you look at Tua, even in Dynasty and redraft last year, was a guy that fell down boards and was a great value. He went at 308 in our Superflex league.
That really shocked me. I think in their defense, I guess like with all the weapons, like he's got to succeed. He's another one on the hot seat this year.
So here's your sneaky guy, Teddy Bridgewater. They brought in Teddy as the backup there, and will anybody be shocked if Teddy's starting games by week 7 or 8?
Honestly, no. I think Teddy's proven to be, he's not the best quarterback, but he can be serviceable.
Yeah.
Like just fine. If you gave Teddy Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and just like, I think he'd do like very serviceable. Like,
look, Teddy, throw it as far as you can and then just be accurate 2 yards from the line of scrimmage and let Waddle do his thing. I mean,
the only thing that worries about Teddy is as far as he can is like 10 yards. But like, but
yeah, that's true.
But I mean, if you get the ball to a guy like Waddle or Hill after the catch, they can make some magic. They can make that 10-yard air yards make a 30-yard, 40-yard play sometimes.
Yeah. So I'll argue the reasons for Tua for fantasy football's sake. I think Tua is a good guy to have if you have a Tyreek or Waddle for the stack purpose. I think that can be serviceable because of the after the catch stuff. if Tua were to fall to you in redraft, if you can get Tyreek Hill early and Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle early, and Tua falls to you in those, later 10th, 11th rounds in redraft, which I think he might. I think that's great value. I think
Possibly.
that's where you want Tua. But I think Tua is one of those quarterbacks, especially in Superflex format, that you have to handcuff. Like Axe Harding, shout out to Axton Harding, which Axton, what a cool first name. I mentioned that on Twitter. But I think, bro, if you're listening, you better grab Teddy late in the year if you're expecting Tua to be. I mean, I think he drafted Tua as his QB2 because he traded up for Carr. So just a thought process there. Okay, we're going to move on. Let's hear your sleeper quarterback. Who's your quarterback this year that is low on value? And we may have already mentioned his name, but just kind of go into further detail. And I'll go, while you think about it, I'll go first. I've been putting you on the spot. So I'll go first. My guy is probably one of your guys, Danny Dimes.
Oh, nice. Love Dimes.
I have been trading in my 1 QB leagues and my other Superflex league. I have been all over trading for Danny Dimes. I think I got Danny Dimes for a 4th and a player I was going to cut, and I got him for 2 4ths in another league. Like picks that probably are never going to amount to anything anyways. I got with a guy who now has Brian Dable from Buffalo. I was late to the Josh Allen party. I'll just say it like that. I think part of that was I got to see Josh Allen play the Titans the year before he really broke out this past year. And he had a serviceable fantasy year in 2021. But I remember watching that game and be like, this guy's terrible. And maybe he just had a bad game, but his throws were all over the place, very erratic with the football, didn't seem to read the field well. Now, he could run the ball. He could take off and bolt, but that was about it. And honestly, that's kind of what we've seen with Daniel Jones. We've seen a guy that is sneaky athletic. I mean, except for when the turf monster gets him when he breaks off down 65-yard run. But we've seen a guy that's sneaky athletic when you watch the tape. Really, really good arm talent. Like, I think he falls into a situation that Marcus Mariota, and I'm not trying to compare him to Mariota, but a scenario that Mariota fell into where he doesn't try to fit the ball into tight spaces enough. As an NFL quarterback, you're going to have to do that. And he tends to hold for the wide open pass, and you don't have that opportunity. I think Brian Daboll will get some of that out of him. I think the coaching staff, especially the quarterback coach that they put around him, is very good for development. And they have every reason to make Daniel Jones good. Like what they've invested in him, they declined his 5th-year option. But here's the thing. You know what's cheap? You know what's not as cheap as a rookie quarterback, but the next best thing is one of these Ryan Tannehill contracts before the restructure where he got extra money against the cap. But one of these, you pay a mid-tier quarterback money, but they then develop into something bigger. And I think that's what the Giants have a chance to do with Danny Dimes. I think Tony is a underrated weapon, although I'm scared to draft him because of the off the field and just head case stuff. Wan'Dale Robinson's going to be another good weapon. And I've been buying Galladay all off season as well at that 3rd round evaluation. I think I traded 309 for Galladay in a league. So I think there's some potential for that offense. And if ran correctly, it was almost it was almost unwatchable to watch that offense last year. I don't know what the Giants were doing. And I can't really put all that on Daniel Jones because the play calling was just so terrible. I don't remember what the full house quarterback sneak was 3 times in a row with Mike Glennon, but it had to be a low point watching your team, man. But
the quarterback sneak when they're in front of their own end zone.
Yeah.
I think it was like 3rd and 11. Like you can't even justify what the plan was. Like there's it was a meme moment. Like,
so who's the poor sap that started? I think Glennon started that game. Who's the poor sap that started Glennon and lost by like a 10th of a fantasy point because Glennon lost a yard on one of the QB sneaks?
Oh no! Did that actually happen?
I'm sure. Real quick, if you can think about it, worst beat in fantasy history. My personal worst beat, I lost by less than a point because the Dallas Cowboys decided to snap the ball to the back of their own end zone on purpose in a primetime game. That happened 2 years ago. They were going to snap to punt it, but if you give yourself a safety, you don't have to punt from your own end zone. Like 2 points, what does it matter? we'll give ourselves some room. And I lost because the person I was playing was starting that defense.
Oh, wow. I know my worst loss or like moment
Just
where it
one of
was
them.
like this close.
Yeah.
I know I lost on Matt Crosby hitting a kick, but then they got a flag and then he missed the kick after. So the points would have got me the win, but someone moved, they redid the kick and he missed the kick and I lost that week. It was rough.
Bad beats. Hey, if you're listening right now, I want you to comment your worst bad beat you've ever experienced in the comments. We'll rate them and see who truly takes the doo-doo crown, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I said Matt Crosby. I'm talking about Mason Crosby on Green Bay.
Yeah. I picked it up. Mason Crosby. Okay. So who's your quarterback sleeper? I hope I didn't take it.
Jones was one of them.
Okay.
I have a couple, I think. Carr used to be one until I put out that article, and then I think, in our league, after seeing him go 3-0-2, I don't think he's a sleeper anymore. I think everyone's all in, just
gasoline
like me.
On the fire.
Yeah, I think given costs, I think it's all about costs.
Yeah.
Like how I said, I'm not doubting Aaron Rodgers, but I think at cost right now, he's not going to perform where people think he's going to perform.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still Aaron Rodgers, so he could still work some magic. I think they're going to use Aaron Jones as a receiver a lot, and I think he has a lot of promise still at his costs. But
how do you feel about?
I wouldn't take him at his cost.
Zach Wilson.
I think he could break out. I think he has a lot more. I think he actually has higher upside than Tua.
Okay.
Because of what he can do with his legs, he's shown what he can do with his legs. He was actually one of the sleepers I was going to mention. I think you can get him pretty late in the drafts as well. I don't think people are as sold as I was last year. I know the offense as a whole on the Jets was bad, but he showed flashes of being good. They also just brought in Garrett Wilson. So you have Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson on the team. And Breece Hall. That offense is going to take a huge jump next season. I think he has a really good cost right now. He's going really, really late. I don't think he'll be a QB1, but he could be a very serviceable QB2, especially in Superflex. Or if you're in a 1 QB league, having him as your backup quarterback, I'd be really happy with that. Another person who I think people are sleeping on is famous Jameis.
Oh, famous Jameis down in New Orleans. Jameis. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think Jameis, he's not the best real life quarterback, but for fantasy purposes, he slings it. I think that there was one year where Chris Godwin was like WR2 and Mike Evans was WR4. Like he can really contribute for fantasy purposes. I think
his 30 for 30 season, 30 touchdowns, 30.
Yeah, the 30-30 season. So as much as you don't like Jameis in real life, for fantasy, he could be very serviceable at his cost. You can get him super late. And I think he could surprise some people. He can he can throw a lot of touchdowns. He can throw it deep. He's already shown. He was not doing too bad before his injury last year, and they didn't really bring in any QB competition because I think they signed Andy Dalton as the backup.
Yeah.
And Jarvis Landry just signed there. They just drafted Chris Olave. Michael Thomas may or may not come back. I know his situation is iffy right now. But I think he could end up really outperforming his ADP right now as well. Him and Zach Wilson are my big sleepers besides Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Winston burnt me last year because I was all in on the hype and kind of faded, right? But I'm right there with you. I think he absolutely has a path, right? And that's all we're looking for in the fantasy community, especially in these sleepers. Who has a path to outperform their ADP? And he definitely has that. And it definitely helps. And I'm going to say how many times can I say definitely in this take? Here we go. All right. It helps him that if Michael Thomas stays, Chris Olave, or I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. And Jarvis Landry, one thing they all three have in common is they are excellent route runners. I thought Olave was the best route runner in this draft for the rookies. They're going to get open and they're going to create space. So, Jameis, you can be a little inaccurate. It'll be okay because they're going to be so wide open, hopefully, that they'll still be able to catch the football and it won't be an interception. Where's Wood? I got a knock on it right over there. All right. So I'm right there with you on him. Okay, I just want to talk about a few guys. I know we've been going for a little bit here, but you still good to have some time with us?
Oh, I have all the time in the world, man.
All right.
Let's keep going.
Let's talk about a guy that I've just been a little iffy on, Davis Mills. There is like people in the Mills community that are high on him, and there's people that don't really know where to rate him, and I think that's me. So Davis Mills is a quarterback for the Houston Texans. You talk about target share real quick. I wanted to throw this in earlier, but I didn't. John Mechie going to them in the second round, really interesting. You talked about how there was a lot of analysts that like Jameson Williams thought he had top 3, potential, but John Mechie had the target share at Alabama last year, and not by a little bit, by quite a bit. When you look at it, it was like 26.9% target share for John Mechie, and I want to say Jameson Williams was somewhere right at 20%. So I think he's a sneaky ad. Brandon Cooks will forever be undervalued in Dynasty, except for like 1 year. So he has some weapons around him. They bring in Dameon Pierce. Coaching is interesting for this year, to say the least. But I don't know really where to rate him, because I know a lot of people think that that's their franchise quarterback, but I think we also all expect the new head coach to go in next year again. And with a loaded 23 class, they could draft another quarterback. So tell me kind of your thoughts on Davis Mills.
I like Davis Mills. I agree that I think he'll only be the starter for 1 more year, like this year. I think they're going to draft a quarterback next year.
Yeah.
I love Brandon Cooks. And I think Davis Mills is going to benefit from, he's not a rookie anymore. I think he probably learned a lot from last year, and he had some very serviceable games. He beat the Chargers. Like they went and beat the Chargers. Like Davis Mills can actually put up some numbers. He likes to sling the ball. I just think he would be an eye for like my QB2 or backup in like Superflex maybe. But I'm not. I do like him. I just don't think he has the potential to be crazy fantasy relevant. I don't think it affects Brandon Cooks at all, though. I think if anything, Brandon Cooks will be a little bit better than last year because Davis Mills isn't adjusting to the NFL anymore. He's had a full year. But like when you look at Davis Mills, like long term, like for Dynasty, I don't see him being the starter past this year. Maybe his career outlook might be someone. Like I'm trying to think of someone very serviceable, but not star potential. Maybe like Andy Dalton type, or
he could have an Andy Dalton career. Could he have his ceiling is probably Kirk Cousins, right?
Yeah, I think his ceiling would be like Carson Wentz type.
So Davis Mills, fun fact, has one of the best games all time for a rookie quarterback against a Patriots defense. Was 21 of 29, 312 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. That was, I think, probably his best game last year. He doesn't give you any rushing upside. He is a statue in that offense. I think this is a make or break year for Davis Mills. And the good part about Davis Mills, if you're looking to draft him in a startup, is he's at value, I think. I think he's one of those guys that if you draft him and he starts for a year, great, and you got a year out of him. And if he's anything more than that, is icing on the cake. So I think he's one of the few players that is at value right now in startups. All right, throw another one at you. Let's go with a young guy. Reports coming out of camp that Desmond Ridder may win the starting job coming out of camp in Atlanta. As a football, as from a coaching perspective, just watching the tape, Desmond Ridder, great leader, command of the offense, accuracy problems, and I'm not sure if he can correct that in time for a full rookie year. So give me your thoughts on Desmond Ridder. What do you like about him? What do you hate? And is he on your radar this year, or do you need to see more?
I think I do need to see a little bit more. I do really like him. Going into the draft, I thought I would take him over Malik Wilis. Might be a hot take, not for fantasy purposes, but like in real life, if I had a team, I would be a lot more happy with him over Malik Willis. I thought he would have gone before Kenny Pickett too, to be honest. But like that also says a lot about this class as a whole. Not the greatest, but I do think he could be a very serviceable starter. I don't think he'll win the starting job right away, like the reports are saying. I think they're going to want to start with Mariota. He has proven experience already in the NFL. it kind of hopes to the point. Like, do you think he's a long-term guy, or he's a guy that they wanted to test the waters with, and then because 2023 class is like really, really good, So I think I don't know if they're trying to. I don't know if they want to go out there and put out Kyle Pitts, who's in his second year, Drake London in his first year, Desmond Ridder in his first year. Like, I don't know if they want to go all young right away. I think Mariota's going to have some time first, maybe 4 or 5 weeks before Desmond Ridder starts taking some starts away from him.
Here's the thing. You have to find out what you have in Desmond Ridder before next season.
Yeah.
It can't be this thing where the worst case scenario, I think, for the Falcons would be you start him the last 4 games down the stretch of the season and he looks better than average because he's playing some teams that just don't care anymore or are banged up.
That's true.
And then you're stuck in this situation. Well, okay, do we have our quarterback of the future or don't we? And it's kind of that same thing that Eagles got stuck in with Jalen Hurts, which I thought they should have given him a vote of confidence much sooner than they did because I thought he looked ready for the opportunity. But you heard a lot about the Eagles just kind of unsure, like, okay, was this a legit thing? Was it not? What can we expect more of? So I think if you don't want to be in that situation, you need to be starting Ridder by week 8. I don't know where their bye week is. I'm going to glance real quick. Where is Atlanta's bye week?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they start him maybe around week 5-ish.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. Mariota, he got hurt as a backup quarterback. Like, he just stays banged up. And I hate to say it, I loved Mariota in Tennessee as a fan. He's easy to root for, man. He really is. Great overall person. But I just don't think he stays healthy. So I think it doesn't hurt you any to start Mariota to start the season because he's going to give you the opportunity to get Ridder in there sooner rather than later. I would not be setting my bets on Ridder long term. Personally, he's going to have to improve a lot really quick. I do think he's one of the best leaders from that position in this draft, but from a pure arm talent and accuracy standpoint, I'm just not sold yet. Moving on.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're good, man. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention, what are your thoughts on talking about that situation, kind of similar to Mitch and Kenny Pickett? What do you think?
That's where I was going next.
We're here. Oh, really? Okay.
We're here.
Okay, we're there.
So,
do you think Mitch is starting week 1 or Kenny Pickett's getting right away?
Here's the thing. Tomlin can do no wrong, in my opinion. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL. So who am I to say that he's wrong no matter what he does? I was excited to see Trubisky get out of Chicago and have an opportunity, and I really wish we'd have got to see that. But with Pickett being drafted in the first time, you're probably just not going to see that. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. I don't think – man, Trubisky – can be fantasy relevant. Like, I really wish they would have drafted a later quarterback because I would have been all over him as a sleeper just from his rushing upside and being in he would have had the best weapons he's ever had this year. And weapons that I think fit his skill set more. Whereas Allen Robinson's a great receiver. I think guys, quick, short route, intermediate route, guys like Deontay Johnson would have just elevated his game and given him a much more consistent target for his skill set. And a great running game to boot with that. Some of Trubisky's best times was when Montgomery was carrying the rock and that running game was moving. Yeah. So I'm back and forth. I hate to say I don't know, but the small hands are a thing, okay? You can make jokes about it. We can make the memes you want. Small hands on a quarterback. I don't want my quarterback wearing gloves. I don't want him wearing 2 gloves. Okay. Yeah. If you're Tom Brady and earn that right because you have a broken finger and want to wear a glove, okay. You're Tom freaking Brady. It's more about here than your hand size. But for all the metrics we look at in a quarterback, right? We look at, breakout age. We look at when they came out in the draft. Like, he doesn't hit any of that. He's a 5th-year senior who honestly did not play the best of competition. I got to watch him against the Tennessee Vols this past year, and although they won that game, the Tennessee secondary was nothing to be excited about. I mean, they had really 2 players and nobody else, and he beat us more across the middle, and we had 2 linebackers that were not ready to be starting at that point. I think if Tennessee would have played him more towards midseason, it'd have been a completely different game. Not to go deep into that, but just that is my biggest experience with Pickett. He was a guy that I didn't even care to scout because I knew I was out on. The only relevance Pickett has for me is the fact that dadgummit, he landed in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh just has so many weapons. They're so well coached, man. If anything, Pickett has a veteran mindset, being an older quarterback coming into the league. I could see Pickett finishing a rookie year as QB2 and everybody going crazy, but I think that's his ceiling. I think QB2 is Pickett's ceiling. What do you think?
I agree with the ceiling. I think I don't think he has enough to ever be a QB1. I was really surprised he went at that spot. I know they really needed a quarterback, but I was really surprised that he got drafted there. But it is a really, really, really good situation. You have Tomlin, you have you got Deontay Johnson, they got Claypool, they just drafted Pickens, who a lot of people said could have been WR1 if not for injury. So he's surrounded by weapons. He has Tomlin there. Najee Harris, can't forget about him.
No.
I don't think he's going to start right away, though. I think they're going to let Mitch play a little while. Because he has like really, really high draft capital, but that doesn't always mean they're going to start him right away. I think they want to work with Mitch a little bit. Could be similar to the Ridder situation where maybe around like week 5-ish, they look at putting him in. I wouldn't be surprised if Mitch started for like a good chunk of the season. I don't know if I haven't heard much news about camp so far, but I don't know how sold they are on Pickett starting week 1. I would start Mitch, but I'm not too sure how good they feel about Pickett right now in camp.
It's going to be so interesting. I think that job's going to be one in the preseason. I think that's going to be one of those few things the preseason's good for, is you're going to get to find out who the starting quarterback of Pittsburgh is through how they play. So that'll be interesting. Let's talk about a guy you kind of threw shade at a minute ago. All right. Malik Wilis. You talked about Ridder over Malik. Here's my thing about Malik, and trying not to be a homer. I'm really trying not to. But I don't think Malik starts this year. I'll just get that out of the way. But if Malik Wilis starts a game this season of any rookie quarterback, if let's just say week 9, every rookie quarterback starting, which probably will not happen, but week 9, every rookie quarterback starting, I would argue that no matter who they're playing, Malik Wilis is the guy that everybody would want to start on their team that week because of the rushing upside. And we've seen it in the past, when these Konami code quarterbacks start, you can instantly start them. Everybody liked Mac Jones last year, but Mac Jones had some terrible weeks because he didn't offer you any rushing upside.
Yeah, so, Mac Jones is one of those like better in real life, not for fantasy type players.
Yeah, exactly. So argue that point with me. Feel free to go against me. I promise. Not gonna hurt my feelings. But Malik Wilis, if let's just say the top 5. So let's say Pickett, Corral, Howell, Malik Wilis, and Ridder are all starting week 9. No matter who they're playing, which one of those guys would you want to start in your fantasy lineup?
You're probably right. I'd probably go Willis. His rushing upside is crazy. That's why everyone thought he would be going. There was so much discrepancy with him. I've never seen this before, where there was mock drafts having him go 2nd overall, and then he falls like 3 rounds later in the actual draft. I've never seen that much discrepancy before for a player. I do think he has all the physical tools, and he was the best rusher by far out of all the quarterbacks. I agree. I don't think he's starting this year. I think Tannehill actually has the job pretty locked up.
Yeah.
Tannehill, he has like his off games, but he also has games where he's like on fire. Like he has like really calculated throws and passes. And I don't think they want to throw Malik Wilis in with, especially if I know Robert Woods is back at camp, but I don't know if he's actually going to start week 1 or week 2. So I don't know if they want to throw in Malik Willis just yet with like lack of weapons out there. They just got Treylon Burks, who we talked about a little before the cast. Neither of us are actually as high as the consensus, but I think Tannehill has the job pretty much locked up. I think Malik Willis is more. They want to see what they can do and see if they can build him around and have him be under leadership from Ryan Tannehill, who I think Ryan Tannehill just said he's not there to be a mentor, but I think that was. Yeah, I think that was more playful. I think he's gonna they're gonna train together, they're gonna practice together. I don't think he meant anything harm by that. I think might be a little salty that they drafted a quarterback at all, but so I think Tannehill does have it locked up for the next year, maybe 2.
Tannehill has had Malik Willis over to his house for a barbecue. They chopped it up, as Malik said. All right, they're homeboys now. They're good, man. They're solid.
Okay, they squashed the beef.
They squashed the beef. No, Tannehill actually came out today and gave a really thoughtful and lengthy response. Not to go off on a tangent, but Tannehill, he made the mentor statement, but that wasn't his whole quote. He's like, if the guy learns from me, that's great. He's like, we're going to be in the same room. We're going to be competing every day. If you go back and watch that entirety of that interview, Tannehill was as blunt and honest as we rarely ever see in these settings. He talked about, depression and talked about having to see somebody after losing the playoff game and how it hurt him, and really went into in-depth real life stuff. And I say we as a general term, analysts, ESPN analysts, Sports Center analysts, whatever, they look at players all the time and we complain about, God, they're just giving us these radio answers, right? They're a robot. They're the Bill Belichick's of the world, right? Just giving us the fluff. And then we finally have a player come out and give us a real life, all right, here's exactly my thoughts on it. And we tear them apart every chance we get. I don't get it. Anyways, he came out today though and said that he said a lot of people have helped him along the way, but there's probably only 2 or 3 people in his life that he would ever consider a quote mentor. And he just holds that word in high esteem. So it would never be his place to call himself a mentor to Malik. That would be Malik's choice. So I don't know which one's more true, or maybe they're both true. But I'm there with you. I think Tannehill has the job this year. Tannehill has gotten hurt in the past. He doesn't always play full seasons, so that's something to watch. I do think, and not that this really helps you for fantasy, but the Titans really like the read option in the red zone. And I think you could see Malik have a role kind of like Trey Lance had last year. I mean, imagine Derrick Henry and Malik Willis on the backfield, 10 yards from the end zone, and you have to guess which one of them is going to take off. And you can't guess at all wrong. And Tannehill has wheels, but I think everybody would agree Malik probably has a little bit more juice to those legs and some more power. So I think you could see that. Next year's where it gets interesting. Tannehill and Henry are available to be cut going into the offseason. They have outs in their contract. Both of them do. So that's where it gets interesting. If the Titans rebuild, that's where you could see it.
What is this might be a little off topic from the quarterback talk, but just your quick outlook on the Titans this year.
All right. So there's going to be some biasness to this. I can't help it, right? So before I get all the little comments, you homer, whatever. Yes, I get it. I will say this. So the Titans finishing as the number 1 seed in the AFC South and the AFC in general gives them a tougher schedule overall. When you look at their strength of schedule, it's actually one of the lower tier, but part of that is because they play the Jaguars and Texans twice. Okay, so that's 4 games off the bat. You're going to play not great teams. Other than that, in the off games where they have to play like whatever the NFC division is, they have to play the 1 seed of those divisions, right? Because they finished as the 1 seed, just how the NFL schedule shakes out. So I think they have a tougher schedule than you initially look at. There is an opportunity for some shootouts in terms of fantasy perspective, so just kind of keep that. But I can't say this about the Chiefs and then completely change the story when I go to start talking about the Titans. The second team in targets to reallocate next to the Chiefs at like 360 plus is the Titans at 351 targets. So I do think that's going to be a bumpy spot. The Titans have a much better defense than the Chiefs. I don't think anybody would really argue that. If you do, you just don't watch football enough. You tell me you don't watch Titans games without telling me. Defense is pretty rock solid. Rashad Weaver was a rookie last year. He gets healthy, comes back. Bud Dupree is fully healthy. Jeffrey Simmons is a man amongst boys. Dude is just an absolute beast. Excited to see Caleb Farley back this year as well. So overall, their defense is really solid, and Roger McCreary was a sneaky good draft pick at pick 35. I think their defense is going to have to carry them early in the season, and if it doesn't, they could get off to a really slow start. Just because you have to get back into that rhythm. Like I'm fully expecting Henry to return to king status, in my opinion. Yes, he's going to be 28 this year, but a lot of people forget he had those early years in his career where he didn't take on many carries, and he's just a different back. You can't say, oh, he's 28 and 28-year-old running backs when there's no other running back that's been 28 and 6'3" and 250 pounds. It's just unheard of.
It's true. Yeah, he's different. He's not an average running back.
So I think Henry is solid this year. Tannehill is going to have to be very efficient early on, and if they can weather that storm, I don't know that they'll be the number one seed in the AFC again because the AFC is just loaded. But I think that they are 100% a playoff team, and I think they win the AFC South, which is probably a little spicy considering the Colts reloaded.
Yeah, that's a good segue to Matt Ryan.
Yeah, good job.
I don't know how I feel about Matt Ryan. I think a fresh start is good. In his defense last year, there wasn't a whole lot to throw to out there, because Ridley was gone after week 4 or week 3.
Yeah,
he was gone really early, so he was just throwing out to Russell Gage was like his top target besides Kyle Pitts.
Cordell Patterson, man.
Cordell was there too. Yeah, Cordell is he's all over the place. Yeah. He kind of fell off a bit, though. I think he started so hot, and then in the last few weeks, it completely fell off there. But they re-signed him, I believe. So,
yeah.
I like Matt Ryan. I hope the fresh start is good. He's going to go in, have a great offensive line immediately. He's going to have Taylor. He's going to have Pittman. Alec Pierce is out there, who I was actually a lot higher on than consensus, I think, going into the draft. So I think he's going to have a lot to work with on the Colts, and I hope it works out for him.
So one thing I do want to mention about him real quick is he's always had a really, really high attempts rate. And I think that number drops probably by a game and a half to 2 games this year. So you look at last year, he threw the ball 560 times. This year, and Carson Wentz last year on the Colts, right, threw the ball 516 times. So 44 less times than Matt Ryan. I mean, that's a game and a half for some quarterbacks, maybe just a game for Matt Ryan, 45 pass attempts. But they are a team that's going to want to do some grounded pound. They're going to want to win some ugly games. And then they could be ahead early against teams like the Jaguars and the Texans. So I just don't know. He's going to have to be more efficient than he's ever been in his career, I think, to hit some of the numbers that he's hit in his career. Speaking of Matt Ryan, right? He's been a quarterback 1. He finished as a bottom tier quarterback 2. I think quarterback 2 is in his realm of possibilities this year. He has Jonathan Taylor, but in terms of passing the ball, Michael Pittman's the only proven asset there, right? As a receiving option. You have Alex Pierce coming in as a rookie who could be good. Please don't try to tell me this is Paris Campbell's year again. We've all been too hurt by Paris Campbell. Let's just not start this. He is fully healthy. If anybody's wondering, it's preseason. That's what he does. So I don't know. Do you think he can finish as a quarterback 1?
No, not as a quarterback 1.
Okay.
I think he could be a serviceable quarterback 2, and maybe like a solid super flex spot. But I think his QB1 days are done. Even if he had better talent out there besides Pittman, I still don't think he'd have an edge over anyone else in the QB1 conversation. So I think he'll still be around the mid QB2 range. So great value for Superflex, but in a 1 QB league, I can see him on the waiver wire still, to be honest, or maybe as a backup quarterback.
All right, so we'll wrap up the show with 2 guys on opposite ends of the spectrum. I'll let you start first on the first one, okay? Let's talk first about Trevor Lawrence. Are you in on Trevor Lawrence, or after 1 season, do you think you saw enough?
I'm in on him that season was really, really rocky, but in his defense, that whole team was kind of a disaster. We could have a whole show, and if you want, let's do it about Urban Meyer. Like, we could go on for hours about that guy. Like, some of the stuff that happened, like I can't even believe it happened. So I don't think there was any. I don't know any quarterback that would have any success there. Obviously, some would be better, but it was the worst situation possible. They clearly really want to build around. Christian Kirk destroyed the market. Like
Christian Kirk is part of the reason the Titans don't have AJ Brown anymore. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Christian Kirk got the bag, and then you know what happened? Tyreek Hill left, Devontae Adams left, AJ Brown left. Like everyone, it destroyed the market completely. And Christian Kirk is a fine receiver, but he should not have got the money that he got. But he's gonna have a lot of weapons there. So Christian Kirk's out there. I have a little soft spot for Evan Ingram. I'm a Giants fan. Kind of burned me a few times fantasy wise, but trying to think who else they got out there. Marvin Jones, I think, is still.
Marvin Jones is still there.
Yeah, he's still doing well. He's old, but he's still. Yeah, he has his big games still.
Yeah.
Travis Etienne's coming back finally. Who I think he's gonna have a DeAndre Swift type role in terms of like he might lead the team or be second in receptions. Like the target share, I think is gonna be really high. He's gonna be a really big receiving back. I don't think they're out on James Robinson. I think they're going to use him as like the ground and pound guy. Etienne might start out as like a receiver or as like a passing down back.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think Travis will still end up being the top running back on the team for sure. But I think they're going to use James Robinson more than people think. I don't think James Robinson is just going to fade away, especially after what he did. Like he was like a fantasy darling, and he was on every team's waiver wire. He just came out of nowhere.
No, I mean, James Robinson, the only thing with him is that Achilles is going to be really tough to come back from, especially a guy that wasn't necessarily known for his burst anyways. Yeah. I think that's both running backs really are coming back from really tough injuries. The difference is Robinson's happened so late in the year. Real quick on the Christian Kirk thing. So you've heard of KPIs if you're in business, right? Key performance indicators. A guy in my fantasy league has been using KPYs anytime a new contract is broke down. So it's like, how many Kirks per year did he get? He's breaking down contracts by Christian Kirks per year, just because that contract was so insane. So, man, I'm so back and forth on Trevor Lawrence. I thought when he was coming out, I'll say this. I didn't think he was an Andrew Luck type can't miss prospect. I thought when I watched him, he played with some of the best talent in college football, and there was times that I didn't think he was the best quarterback in the field. Go back and look at him and Sam Howell. I mean, Sam Howell's – I don't know that Trevor Lawrence ever had a better year than Sam Howell had his 18-year-old freshman year, which was incidentally Sam Howell's best year ever as a college quarterback. They definitely played some tough talent, but I thought he really stat padded a little bit against lower competition when they did play those teams. He's one of those guys that he makes some throws that makes you go, what was that? Like, just absurd. But he also had some inconsistency. So I'm just kind of back and forth on him. I'm not drafting him near the third or fourth round of Superflex leagues like I've seen. I think he should be let's say this. I think Zach Wilson has a better chance to break out than Trevor Lawrence does.
Oh, I 100% agree. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, because Trevor Lawrence is not offering much on the ground at all.
Yeah.
This might be a hot take, but I thought Trevor Lawrence, I knew he was going first, like Jaguars were 100% taking him. I thought Justin Fields should have went second or third. I don't think he should have went fourth.
No.
A little part of me wanted the Giants to take him. I love Dimes, but I don't think Dimes is the future. Justin Fields, I think, can be a franchise quarterback. He just needs some help.
Hey, stop crapping on my Danny Dimes cheap stock, okay? My penny stocks are going to hit. I know it.
Oh, no. This year, I'm sold on him. I'm in. Like, especially at cost, I am in. He could run. He has one of the best deep balls. I think percentage-wise, last year, he was super, super high. If you look at a lot of the Danny Dimes lowlights, it's like Evan Ingram drops and Darius Slayton drops. Like, a lot of those you can blame strictly on drops. Like,
yeah.
So I'm in on Dimes this year for sure.
Okay. So last guy we'll talk about, completely opposite end of the spectrum here, and something that I don't think enough people are talking about, and I'm going to sound like a total idiot for saying this, and so let me hedge my bet, so to speak. The guy we're going to talk about is Patrick Mahomes, okay? I don't know if I think Patrick Mahomes will finish as a QB1. I'm not going that crazy. But am I crazy to say that Patrick Mahomes finishes outside of the top 5 quarterbacks this year?
I don't think that's crazy at all.
Okay.
That Tyreek Hill loss is big. Let me double check. Where did Mahomes finish last year? Was it 4th or 5th?
So he was QB4 last year, QB4 in 2020, finished as QB7 in 19, but he did miss some games, right? And then it obviously was QB1 in 2018, the breakout year. I could see him being as low as QB8 this year. Just looking at some of the other quarterbacks, like I don't think he finishes ahead of Allen or Herbert. Kyler Murray has the rushing upside. Same thing with Lamar Jackson, fully healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, you just start going and working your way down that list. Where does he fall? Where do you think the level is for him this season, especially, again, with all the new targets?
I completely agree. I still think he'll be QB1, but it won't be high-end QB1. It'll be like mid to low this year. I hate to doubt Mahomes, but that Tyreek Hill, that was a huge, huge loss. And not only was that a big loss, but a lot of the other guys, like Allen is most likely QB1 again. I think in Dynasty might be a hot take, but I think Herbert could one day be the like QB1 overall in Dynasty. I did a little thread about that on Twitter, mostly comparing to like quarterbacks rushing less as they get older. And Herbert just really outperforms on the passing end than Josh Allen. So I think, but like getting back to Mahomes, so like like you said, I don't see him passing Kyler, Allen, Herbert, Lamar. So that already puts him at 5.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson doesn't get suspended, he's probably 5 for me in terms of fantasy finish. Then you can't leave out one thing we forgot to mention. Jalen Hurts could be.
I think he could be QB1.
Yeah, he could be the overall QB1. No matter what you think about him in real life, this is fantasy.
Yeah.
This is a fantasy podcast.
Next year, but he could be QB1 this year.
Exactly, yeah. He might not have the best job security, but if you're talking redraft, he could be QB1 overall. Like, he has the potential. They just got A.J. Brown. You got Devontae Smith. Goddard, I really high on Goddard. I think he's a great tight end. And the rushing upside is just unreal. So after all those guys we named, can't even count out guys like Burrow and stuff. Burrow with an offensive line is going to be unreal. Because a lot of the points lost last year was from him getting sacked. Like,
yeah. I mean, the Titans sacked him 9 times in the playoff game and lost somehow, which is absurd.
Yeah.
So here's you a fun Jalen Hurts stats. I know we didn't talk much about him. I didn't want to sound like a homer because I drafted him in the Creator League. It's actually the only league I have him in right now. But so fun little note on Hurts. He was one of the best passing quarterbacks last year against man coverage. A.J. Brown is at his best against man coverage.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be really interesting to watch. Quez Watkins, who I was actually kind of a stand on last year. I was all in on Quez Watkins because you could get him for free and you actually got to turn him for a value. But I think him being able to be that third option is going to be really beneficial. I think he'll have some deep shot touchdowns this year. I'm really excited for Jalen Hurts this year. I can't help it, man. He's so easy to root for too. So we got all these guys, man. It's the quarterback scenario. You could really be all over the place trying to name your top 5 or even 10 quarterbacks. I'm just excited to watch it all unfold this year. Any last remarks? And before you finish, I definitely want you to tell us one more time where we can find you on Twitter and where we can find your articles, because I really enjoyed the one on Dynasty Nerds. I got to look up the ones on Dynasty Pros now.
Oh, thanks. Really appreciate that. So you can find me on, got some stuff posted on Dynasty Nerds, Dynasty Pros. And I post all my article links and thoughts and stats and advice on Twitter at RyanR_FF. Also check out the Creator League that we're both in. I think that's going to be a fun time. I think that'll be a cool thing for us to grow. There's actually a few big names in there as well. Like Dave Kluge is in there. Steve, the Fantasy Ladder's in there. Good pal of mine. He's from Dynasty Pros as well. So there's a few. The Dynasty buys in. A lot of big names in there, which I think will help elevate the league as well. And I hope we can grow that to be big. And let's make some more trades in there, man.
Hey, you can rest assured if there is a trade, I'm going to be involved in the talk. So I'm sure we'll have plenty of trades going left. A lot of really good guys in there. I don't want to start naming because I know I'll miss people. Another guy, I think the senior writer from Dynasty Nerds is in there too. I'm trying to think of his name now because I don't want to butcher it. Spides, Jason Snyder.
Yeah.
So I like reading his stuff too. So really excited to compete with all of you guys. Everybody's going into win now mode. It's crazy. It's like a giant mix. Allen Robinson just got drafted while we were wrapping up our show here.
Oh, okay.
Went a little higher.
I think he'll have a
ADP.
big year this year.
Oh yeah, me too. Went higher than ADP, but I think that's a great value at 806. So Michael Sicoli is on the clock now. So that's going to do it for us though. For FF's sake, let's hit the outro.
Thank you for listening. Follow For FF's Sake on all social media platforms and search for us wherever you get your podcasts.